Thank you so much for coming out tonight. What I wanted to do is provide a few remarks and then do one reading from here, kind of bring it all home. This is Cassetta's. This is the first job that I had some 25 years ago. Not this store, the hole in the wall down the street where it all started. And I don't remember the exact year that store opened, but that was my first job. And believe me, the flipping around in the air, it's pretty easy. It's not that hard of a job. But obviously, to bring it around full circle, to have this event here tonight is, it just feels like an honor. And I want to thank Dave Cassetta, the owner of the store, right over here. Give him a round of applause. It certainly does not hurt his cause that the food is so good here. So thank you all for coming. A book event like this, a book launch wouldn't be complete, I think, without doing some reading. So I picked a story out of the book that has ties to the community, has ties to Cassetta's. My great-grandmother was a Cassetta, which makes Dave and I cousins down the line here somewhere. So I was going to read about my grandpa. And I'll do that story and then make a few remarks and then we'll get started. How's that sound?
Hooah!
Hooah! All right. If my grandma taught me compassion, endurance, and patience, Grandpa Matthew Garofalo, Matt, must have taught me the value of unbridled passion and the idea that challenge could be fun, albeit in a very odd way. He was a tall, thin, tireless, remarkably loud and foul-mouthed automobile mechanic who ran his own repair shop out of his two-car home garage well into his 80s. He was drafted for World War II, but he saw no honor in the task, then or later. He believed his greatest triumph of the war was that his family convinced the War Department to send him home to Minnesota to take care of his Italian-speaking parents shortly after being drafted. Even in hindsight, he didn't think a world war held as much sway as taking care of his family. And it seemed his harshest words were saved for those who didn't see it the same way, which did not help me when I joined the Army. Despite his deep conviction about family, he had a strange way of expressing affection. "I should have had pigs," he was fond of telling his kids in later years. "At least I could eat them." His temper, our family prefers the word passion, was legendary. On 2 separate occasions, he entered his home in a tirade and smashed his entire dining room set to pieces for reasons known only to him. Passion, I guess. Matt's personality was so consistent and predictable that he was virtually a Disney character, PG-13 at best. The only time he made an appearance inside the house was during mealtime. Otherwise, he was in the garage or in the basement working. "You don't work, you don't eat," he was fond of saying. His office was the basement, a cavernous, damp dungeon filled wall-to-wall and floor-to-ceiling with car parts, tools, brass fittings, and barrels of footwear from the junkyard. A single winding goat path spanned the 50-foot length of the room. In a tiny, unfinished corner, there was a rudimentary shower stall that looked as if it had been imported from a third-world mud hut. He would request things from upstairs by banging on a pipe with a wrench and shouting his demands. He blacktopped his 30 by 40-foot backyard, reasoning it would not require mowing, despite the abundance of free labor in his family. By the time the Weber boys came along, his backyard consisted of nothing but stacks of tires and a massive doghouse for his German wolfhound, Igor. Matt's lectures were always a show, too. No matter what the topic, he included at least one curse word and repeated his explanations at least twice. Since he always talked this way, we just accepted it. I don't remember thinking angry as much as I thought poetry. Any common annoyance could set him off. A normal rant might include something like, "Johnny doesn't listen. Doesn't fucking listen. Nope, can't listen. Doesn't know how to listen. Wouldn't know how to listen if his life depended on it. If his life depended on listening, he would be dead." particular. In fact, the offending party was usually long gone by the time he got rolling. With 15 kids under the same roof, he took on the disciplinary style of a quirky prison camp captain. He integrated his work and his family life by using a fan belt for whippings. Lining up his young offenders, he would graciously ask, "Do you want a Chevy, a Ford, or a Pontiac?" Matt's physical appearance was deceiving. Even in his 60s, he moved like a tall version of Yoda, slightly hunched over and methodical in a routine, but lightning fast in a dust-up with one of his teenage boys. He was known to chase one or more of them in the back alley or out into the neighborhood to exercise his judgment. From my earliest memories, I can recall from when my brothers and I visited, he would yell in a deep voice from the garage, "Oh boy, here we go! Here we go! The Webbers are here! Open a keg of nails! Nail everything down!" He did this without even pulling his head from under the hood. Again, he didn't sound angry, but he never sounded happy either. We never knew exactly how he felt or quite what he meant, but his ranting always made us smile. Conversations with Grandpa Garofalo would be about one of two subjects: cars or sex. I'm sure we talked about other things, but I'll be damned if I can remember what. Examples? He spoke of women he'd known before marriage as conquests, using Italian words for his manhood or for sexual acts. One routine sex reference was known simply as box of bananas. A throwback to the days when he'd come home for lunch and throw a box of bananas on the kitchen table to keep all the kids busy while he spent some private time with Grandma. He lived until age 92, when I was stationed in Minnesota. He was the only grandparent I personally watched waste away, and his struggle, less than 2 years before my cancer fight, provided a timely example. When I laid him down on the floor to perform some range of motion exercises with his legs, he casually told me something that illustrated how he was going to face the end of his life. With fire and conviction in his voice, he said, "There's only one thing I want to do when I'm laying in this position." During his eulogy, the church erupted in gasps and laughter when I pointed out that St. Peter is likely still wondering who threw a box of bananas on the lectern while running past him at a sprint. All right. So I want to thank David Murray, who drove here from Chicago in an unheated car. I don't know if that's how they do business in Chicago. Oh, there he is, right there. Raise your hand so they can see you. All right. I spent the weekend signing books because it has been a very rough week for me, and I didn't know how long I was going to last tonight. So you'll have two choices when you come up here. There are books that are signed. My standard greeting is "Embrace your Bufords with courage." That's what I'll have in the inscription with my name. If you want something different than that, please ask for a blank copy and I'll sign whatever you want, but you can't say "Be Shakespeare" for me. Don't do that to me. Give me some idea of what you want. All right, and I'll personalize it. I'll gladly personalize it. For those of you who have already not gotten something to eat, please taste Casetas while you're here. Mr. Guthrie, wonderful. 2 pieces. Now that's a grade school teacher talking. You know they don't lie.
Amen.
The mission now for me is to share this message, to embrace your Bufords, to embrace your hardship. All right, so I hope you'll enjoy the vigor of emotion that I wrote in this book while you read it. Thank you very much. Hua.